Hi everyone, and welcome to day 5 of the Tami sew along. So it is our last day of the sew along, and we've only got to attach our hood and sew our thumbhole cuffs. So we're going to get straight into it today. First thing we need to do is just find the center of your back piece. So really simply you match up those seams, your shoulder seams, and just mark that center of your back piece. You're going to attach your hood now to your neckline of your jacket. So before I attach it, I actually have also just overlocked my front piece of my hood, so that will form part of my hemming later on once we've attached it. Bear in mind, if you've got a cover stitch, you don't need to overlock that. There is alternative ways to hem that as well. So I've just finished it off with this way, and I'm just going to use my sewing machine to top stitch it instead of my cover stitch. So the back seam of my hood, we're going right sides together, and we're matching that to the middle of our back piece. Now with the side pieces, we need to leave 1 1/4 inches of the side. So if I get my little measure, I'm going to measure exactly my 1 1/4, which is there. And that overhang needs to hang over your zip. So your teeth are on the inside. That 1 1/4 piece is going over that way. And we just pin that down. So you've got a little overhang over this side. Okay, and we do the same with the other side. So measure again, 1 1/4 right over onto the teeth. Then from there we're just going to clip it in the middle, pin as much or as little as you like, really personal choice. I normally just put in 1 more in the middle of those areas. Don't need to pin too much, I don't think, for that. So we've pinned that nice and easily. What we're going to do now is that overhang that we had, we are going to fold it over around your zip teeth, around this way, so it covers the top of your zip. Okay, and then we just clip that in like so, and we do the same thing to the other side. So we just cover it over the top part of our zip and pin it down. Now all you need to do is overlock your hood to your neck piece of your jacket. Now if you're using the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, as it asks you to, I would recommend that on your zip that you pull some teeth, just because your knife of your overlocker will go through those, and it could damage your knife, breaking needles, and do all sorts of things that you don't want to do. On previous ones I've made, I've just done a 1/4 inch seam allowance on my overlocker, and so I've just gone over it with my needles and not cut anything off, therefore not needing to trim those teeth off my zip. So just keep that in mind. Yes, I did just a 1/4 inch seam allowance on this. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to sew that using your overlocker or using a stretch stitch on your sewing machine. So let's go ahead and start that. Okay, so now that we've attached our hood, when we turn it in the right way and we flick over those corners, you can see that the hood now covers the top of your zip and it acts as your zip stop. So all we need to do now is top stitch our hood to create that casing if you've added eyelets for your drawstring. If you haven't created eyelets, you still need to top stitch it. So there's a few different ways that we can do it. Like I said previously, I overlocked the front edge of my hood. So you can just overlock that and then turn it over 1 inch. You can turn it over and cover stitch it, or you can fold it over, do like a double fold to hide that inseam, that seam. So it's really up to you. I just found I would normally use my cover stitch, and I did use my cover stitch on the previous hoodie that I videoed. So this time I thought I'd show a different way, and I've just overlocked it, and I'm just going to use my sewing machine to top stitch. So if you find, once you've done that, giving it a bit of a press, clipping it where it needs to go, and then all we need to do is top stitch it whichever way you find the easiest. So I have already pressed mine partially, just a very light press, so it's nice and easy now for me to just clip it in. So all we're going to do is top stitch our hood and then come back and start on our thumb cuffs. So let's do that. Okay, so our front piece of our hoodie has now been top stitched. So our hood is now complete. So we've done that. The next thing that we're going to do is, I've just got to trim this off before I go any further. The next thing we're going to start on is our thumb hole cuffs. So we've got our 2 pieces here. I'm just doing an extra demo because I think it's a bit hard to see when, especially on a solid fabric, both sides are the same, so it's very hard on a video. So this way I've got the wrong side and the right side so that you can see. So all we're going to do is mark our thumb hole cuff markings, and you'll need to try and make this as precise as you can, because when you go to join them up, they will need to be quite precise, otherwise they won't match up evenly. So just bear that in mind. So I'm just marking them with a pen, and then all we're going to do is we'll fold these right sides together. So right sides together, and what we're going to do from here is we're just going to use our sewing machine. So you don't want to use your overlocker for this. There goes one clip. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sew between our markings. So we're going to sew, we've got the top one, we're going to sew from the top to the first marking, then we're going to leave that second part empty, then we're going to sew from the second to the third, we're going to leave the third to the fourth, and then we're going to sew that fourth one all the way to the end. So just with our sewing machine, and we're going to do that on both thumb hole cuffs, making sure that you're back stitching at both starts and finishes on between each interval. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that we've sewn them, so I'll just show you what it looks like. So we've got the top one from our the top edge to our first marking, we've left the second to the third, we've sewn our third to our fourth, we've left the fourth to the fifth, and then we've gone from the fifth to the end. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to give our seam allowance on this side a really good press so we can get to the next step. Okay, so now we've got our seam allowance pressed. What we need to do is we need to sew those seam allowances together to make our thumb holes so that we've got some enclosed seams. So if you look over this way, this is so much easier than the first video I did because you can see where the right side and the wrong side of the fabric is. So we've got our thumb hole holes in the middle here. So we're going to join from one end, let's see if I can get the best view here. So one end and one end, that way, sorry. And we're going to join those two pieces by just folding them together like so. So really try and make sure that you've matched them up. From there, you're going to pick one side, doesn't matter which side because both are going to get sewn up. And you're going to get your seam allowance and the two top ones, and you're going to sew from that first thumb hole mark where the first one is to the second, making sure that you don't catch anything underneath it. Okay, so that's really important. Otherwise you will need to unpick it. So we're just sewing from one to the other. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that now. And now once we've done that one, we're going to do the exact same thing but on the opposite side. So we just flip our thumb holes, our cuff around, and now we've got those, that there, the seam allowance. Do the same thing, sew them together, making sure that you're not catching anything underneath. And we're going to sew from the end of one stitching to the other to enclose it. The second one's always easier to sew than the first. Okay, and once you've done that, you can fold it out the right way now. Sorry, I have to trim all my threads. So now we just fold it right way out, put your raw edges together, and your raw edges will go now into your sleeve, and you've got your thumb hole. So it's worked out perfectly. So all we need to do is we just need to finish off the other side and then attach it to our jacket. So I'm going to go finish that side off and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we've got our two thumb hole cuffs, we're ready to attach them to our jacket. So our jacket will be well and truly finished. So when we're attaching these, you need to make sure that your seam on your thumb hole is matching up with your seam on your sleeve. Otherwise your thumb hole is going to be in the wrong place. So when I do this, I always turn my jacket inside out, or at least just the sleeve, because I like to put my cuff on the inside. And making sure, once again, that seam is matching the seam on your sleeve. So lining them up perfectly, clipping, pinning, whatever you like to do the most. Then I just sort of pin again at the halfway point. Okay, And then we do the other side. Pull our sleeve in this way and pop our seam facing our sleeve seam. So all the raw edges together, seams together, right sides together. And pin or clip. And now all we're going to do is I'm just going to overlock my cuff to my sleeve. Now obviously my cuff is smaller than my sleeve, so as you're sewing you will need to stretch out that band just a little bit to make it fit nicely. So I'll go sew that on and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so now we've sewn our cuffs and our hood on in day 5. So I told you it would be nice and a cruisy day for us all. So we've got our, you can see that my seam, where my thumb hole cuff is here, is matching with my seam of my sleeve, sorry. So it'll all be in the right place. Hood's on, zip's done, cuffs and bands are on. I hope you've all enjoyed the last 5 days of this sew along, and I look forward to seeing all your finished Tamis in the Sew Unique Fabrics Facebook group. So please post a photo for me. I'm really looking forward to seeing them all. And if you got to the end of this video, I'm going to draw some winners on Sunday just to give some people some time to add some photos of the Tamis that they have made. Thanks for joining everyone. Bye for now.